In the summer of 2024, French politics just exploded. And, what happened in France might seem like a local story, but it's really a perfect window into something much bigger: how political battles are now being fought and won online. So let's dive into the data from a really fascinating study that decodes this modern digital battlefield. First, let's just set the stage here. It all kicked off on June 9th. The far right gets this massive, stunning win in the European elections. And President Macron's reaction? That very same night, he makes this huge gamble. He dissolves the National Assembly and calls for snap elections. And just like that, the country was plunged into this frantic whirlwind campaign with just weeks to go. Okay, so that leads to a really big question. When you've only got a few weeks and everything's on the line, where is the real battle for public opinion being fought? Is it on the streets, on TV, or is it somewhere else entirely?
Well, it turns out a huge part of the answer lies with YouTube. Get this, a staggering 61% of the entire French population is on YouTube every single week. It's clearly not just for cat videos anymore. It's a critical political arena.
So you've got this perfect political storm, and a team of researchers decided to dive right in. They wanted to map this exact battlefield. They basically followed the data breadcrumbs from the election to figure out, okay, who is actually winning on YouTube, and how are they doing it?
To do that, they looked at two main kinds of players in this game. On one side, you have the politicians' and parties' own channels. This is their direct line to you, the voter. No filter, no middleman. And on the other side, you've got the traditional news media channels, and they're right there on the mix, fighting for the same eyeballs. And I mean, the scale of this thing is just huge. We're talking 35 news channels, 28 politician channels. They crunched the numbers on over 43,000 videos. And get this, they decoded 7.4 million comments. That's not just a peek behind the curtain. It's like a full-on digital autopsy of an election. All right, so with all that data, what's the first big reveal? Simple question: who won the clicks? And the answer really boils down to two key things: activity and engagement. Right away, the data just screams one thing at you: the massive difference in activity. You can see here the channels from the far right and the left wing. They were just pumping out content. I mean, look at those bars. And then you look at the political center, it's a totally different story. They were barely posting. They almost weren't even playing the same game.
And no surprise, all that activity translated directly into engagement. The more they posted, the more people watched. I mean, check out these numbers. The far right was averaging 138,000 views per video. The left wing, not far behind at 96,000. And the center, just 25,000. That's not just a gap, it's a canyon. And this brings us to a really crucial takeaway from the researchers. What this shows is that you don't need the traditional TV networks anymore to be successful. YouTube lets you build your own massive audience completely on your own terms. It's a total game changer, especially for the political extremes. But it gets even more interesting. The study found this really surprising twist when it came to YouTube Shorts. For the channels that were already popular, the far right and the left, Shorts were like pouring gasoline on a fire. We're talking a 10 to 15 times boost in views. Insane. But here's the kicker. For the less popular channels, Shorts actually hurt their numbers. It's like an amplifier. It doesn't make you popular, it just makes the popular channels way more popular. Okay, so we know who's posting and who's watching, but what are these audiences actually like? What are they doing? To figure that out, the researchers dove into those 7.4 million comments to see how people are actually interacting. Are they just shouting into the void, or are they forming real communities? And the data is crystal clear on this. The channels on the far left and far right are masters at creating what we call echo chambers. Basically, these are super tight-knit communities where supporters are mostly just talking to each other, reinforcing their own ideas. But, and this is a big but, that's not the whole story. Hidden in the data was this small but incredibly important group, just 7% of all commenters. The researchers call them cross-commenters. And what do? They don't just stay in their bubble. They actually go out and post on channels from the other side. Now, 7% might not sound like a lot, but this group punches way, way above its weight. Why? Because they are hyperactive. Your average commenter in an echo chamber, they might post about 4 times. These cross-commenters, they're posting an average of 70 times. 70! So they're the ones driving almost all the conversation or the arguments between the different political sides.
Okay, so for our final piece of the puzzle, it's easy to think this whole story is just about politicians and their direct channels, right? But the data shows that's not quite right. The old school news media, they still have a huge role to play on this new battlefield. So if you look at the center and right-leaning news channels, yeah, centrist politicians get the biggest piece of the pie, about 35% of the airtime. But look at this other huge slice. The far right gets a full quarter of all interviews. And the researchers point out that share has grown a lot since 2017. Now, flip over to the left-leaning news channels, and it's a completely different picture. They are way more focused on their own side. A massive 75% of their guests are from the left wing. They pretty much stick to their own team, which shows a totally different editorial strategy, right? And this is where everything starts to connect. The study found this fascinating bridge effect. When a politician shows up on a news channel, a couple of things happen. First, that video gets nearly double the number of comments as a regular news video. And who are these extra commenters? Well, they're the politicians' die-hard fans. They're basically following their leader from their home channel and marching right into the news channel's comment section to support them. Okay, so let's pull back from the details for a second. Why does all this matter, not just in France, but everywhere? Because what we're seeing here is basically a new playbook for politics, a whole new set of rules for the digital age. So what are these new rules? Let's break them down. Rule 1, the more you post, the more people watch. Simple as that. Rule 2, the extremes are winning because they can go straight to the people, bypassing the old media gatekeepers. Rule 3, new tools like shorts just make the popular even more popular. Rule 4, you've got these tiny but super active groups that are the bridges between the echo chambers. And finally, Rule 5, don't count the old media out. They're still the kingmakers who decide who gets that massive mainstream spotlight online. So when you put it all together, the study's main conclusion is really powerful. What the data showed in France was that the far-right's success came from this perfect 1-2 punch. They've totally mastered their own channels to speak directly to their base, and at the same time, they're getting more and more airtime on mainstream news. It's a combo that is, as the data shows, incredibly effective. And all of this leaves us with a huge question to think about. As politics keeps moving more and more online, who are the new gatekeepers? Is it the tech companies and their secret algorithms? Is it that tiny, hyperactive group of users stirring the pot? Or have the old gatekeepers just found bigger, more powerful gates to control?